Hello everyone, and welcome again to another edition of Submerge Me PC. Today I wanted to take you all along with me as I show you some of the temps that I'm seeing with this Immersion PC setup. I went ahead and pulled up Core Temp as well as the Task Manager so you can see an idea of how long the system has been up and some of the temps I've seen so far since booting the system. If you notice here in Task Manager, the system has been running roughly about 7 minutes or so. And over here in Core Temp, it shows you that I've seen a max temperature of 68 degrees across the board on all 4 cores since booting the system. If you look here in the minimum category, you'll see that the lowest temperature I've actually seen since booting the system has been 30 degrees. Over here, the active temperatures that you're seeing on the cores, you'll notice that the lowest temperature that you're seeing now is probably roughly about 34 to 33 degrees on the lowest, maybe 32 in that one, if I'm not mistaken, that's all just in. With the highest being about 37, maybe 38, I'm not for sure, I don't see, yeah, there's a 38. Okay, with that being said, what I wanted to show you is that this is the temperatures that you're going to see with something if you go with a setup similar to this. Now, take in mind that even though the system seems to be idle, as this seems to be sitting there, it's actually being currently used to make this screen capture. So keep that in mind when you see some of the performance scores on the benchmark software that I use here in a moment to show you some of the max temperatures that you'll see once you actually give the CPU a load. And this lets you get an idea for yourself. That way you can be the judge and you can take or leave it however you see fit. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and kick off Cinebench so we can see some of these temps I'm talking about and get an idea of exactly the kind of performance that we're seeing. And here we go. Now keep in mind, currently the ambient temperature is about 71 to 72 degrees in the room the system is sitting. So I can give you an idea of just roughly how cold or hot the room is versus what you might normally see in the situation that you have your PC set up.
Perfect.
Okay, so here we go. Now that's done, we can get a look at some of these temperatures we've seen during that test. Now I don't want you to pay attention too much on the actual score, as this score isn't truly what you would see if you wasn't doing anything on the system like screen capture along with this benchmark. The scores I've seen doing it without doing any kind of screen capture is a lot higher than this. The main focus on this video, like I said, I wanted to show you was these temps. So let's focus on those. Over here, you'll see that the maximum temperature we're seeing was about 88 degrees on the hottest core. Now keep in mind, this was with the CPU at 100% for at least 2 minutes or so while it done this video decoding test. These are probably roughly the same temperatures that you would see doing something like hardcore gaming, maybe ripping DVD, Blu-ray, 4K video, something to that effect, maybe doing your own video encoding, so forth, so forth. I've personally seen with this current setup a little bit higher temperatures than this when I was doing the Prime 95 to stabilize the overclock at 4.6. Now granted, a lot of you out there may think that these temperatures are quite high, higher than you would like. As I mentioned, the Prime 95 temperature was actually up to about 92 to 93 degrees, if I'm not mistaken. It may be a little bit higher than that. It was high enough to me that I wasn't quite happy with the result. So I'm thinking that either I need to A, drop down the overclock, maybe to a 4.5, or perhaps add a secondary radiator to the setup to kind of help bring those temperatures down. Currently it has one 360 millimeter radiator set up with 3 fans in push configuration. I was thinking about adding, like I said, a secondary radiator with maybe 3 more fans and a greater push-pull setup or something to that effect to kind of help bring those temperatures of the dielectric liquid down even that much further. This, of course, would help relate to lower temperatures on my CPU, my GPU, my VRM, my RAM, and any other components that I might have submerged inside of the dielectric liquid. That to me is the biggest argument I can give to why the benefits of having a submerged PC setup versus conventional air cooled or your liquid closed all-in-one systems that you may have. With your liquid all-in-one systems, you possibly would get your GPU, maybe your CPU, maybe them both in a configuration, shared loop, maybe their own loops, however you may have that. There's some setups out there for fans just for your RAM, some for your VRMs, some of the new M2 drives that are coming out. They have their own heat sinks that help dissipate out the heat into the ambient temperature inside the case. All that to help keep the temperatures down. And those setups, that actually even helps the dielectric liquid be amplified even higher. All of the effects are increased versus your closed loop situation, because you're only going to get your performance out of what temperatures you can get in that liquid versus passing them past those certain components. Inside of a Submersion PC setup, every single component is surrounded by the liquid. Every square inch of that component turns into a heatsink. If everything that is involved with that component, especially if it has its own heat spreaders that increase the surface area, if you will, of that component, will help increase the heat dissipation into the dielectric liquid. So therefore, it's basically creating you a liquid cooled system that's surrounding every single capacitor, every single, heat spreader you may have, whether it be on your RAM, whether it be on your M2 drives, whether it be on your SSDs, whether it be on heat sinks on the CPU, down to your heat sinks on your GPUs, and so forth, all the way across the board. And that, of course, is where you get your performance. For all of you out there that may have any questions, please feel free to comment below. Make sure you like and subscribe, because more videos are definitely going to come out. And I just want to hear from you. So please feel free. See you guys soon.